Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Meg Zepfel.
So I was on the table in the hospital, and my heart was feeling like it was gonna jump out of my chest. And the doctor who was kind of performing this had turned to look at the monitors, and I didn't quite trust that this was exactly what was supposed to be happening, so I kind of thought, okay, do I say something? And I was like, okay, wait, your heart is gonna come out of your chest. Yes, say something. So I turned to her and I was like, you know, it's starting to feel a little funny. And without missing a beat or glancing away from the monitor, she turns to me and she says, "That's what exercise feels like. Not something you would ever know anything about." And I was a little stunned, but I was there to get a clearance in order to have weight loss surgery. So I thought, okay, we just need the clearance. We've got to keep going. And the thing is that when something looks so extreme, it's so easy to decide you have the answer. Well, of course, I know what's going on. But that's not always the case. You see, as a kid, I spent an inordinate amount of time in spandex. My parents put us in swim team, and we learned how to swim when we were 2. I have a twin brother. And when we learned how to swim, I took to it immediately, in kind of the style of Esther Williams, and Ted really just thrashed. So in 2nd grade, when I was a good 30 pounds heavier than my brother, my parents thought, okay, it's time to up this up a little bit, let's put him on the swim team. And which is really a genius parenting move, because your kids come back disinfected, reeking of chlorine, exhausted, and they'll eat whatever vegetable you put in front of them. Now, Ted could easily eat 2-3 times the amount I did, but he stayed skinny as a rail. And things just weren't really computing. Twins, same house, same exercise plan, same diet. It was time to try to find some answers. And so we started going to see doctors. Now, I had already decided that I was going to be a doctor, and I really loved going. As soon as you got past the whole step on the scale thing, I thought it was just fascinating. Let's figure out how the body works and what we can do to help people. And I had journaled this and illustrated this, and it was my Halloween costume, so it was like, well done that this is where I was going, so I better study up. And so we started at the pediatrician's office, and the pediatrician looked at me, looked at my mother, and told her that it was pretty much paramount to child abuse to keep feeding me Twinkies and letting me watch cartoons. And my mother didn't feel that medical advice was worth paying for, so we stormed out. And I was young enough to know that there was something wrong, and that something was me, and that we were going to go see more doctors. This wasn't the end of it. And so we ended up at the endocrinologist's office, and he ran tons of tests and decided, you're perfectly healthy, just fat. So go to the dietitian. So I went to the dietitian, and we played with plastic broccoli, and I identified vegetables, and the goal was, okay, well, you know what, when she hits puberty, things will balance out. We just gotta wait. So we waited, but nothing panned out. So in high school, I was up to 300 pounds, but I was also a fabulous water polo player. I could knock off backhands before the other team even knew what to think, because they really didn't know what to think of me. Either they severely underestimated or they were terrified. And I loved water polo, and I loved the water, but I hated the moment coming out of the locker room, and I have a towel wrapped around, and I knew the exact path to fling the towel on the bench and slip in as soon as in the water in maybe like 5 milliseconds. Because in the water, my body actually did what I asked it to, and I felt like I could move. So at graduation, my parents approached me, and they were like, you know, you've tried a lot of things, but let's try one more thing. And so I started acupuncture. And in acupuncture, they were muscle testing me to see if I was allergic to different foods. And I was allergic to everything. I was allergic to wheat, I was allergic to corn, I was allergic to soy, I was allergic to dairy, I was allergic to chicken, I was allergic to fish, I was allergic everything. And so I mainly ate rice for a year. And it was a banner year for me because while I didn't lose any weight, I only gained 10 pounds. And at this point, my parents said that, you know what, Meg, we've tried everything. If you want to start considering weight loss surgery, you're going to have to do some research. And I was just like, no. I was vehemently opposed. This was too drastic. I wanted to go to college. I wanted that freedom. I did not want to be the sick kid anymore. And so I went to college, and it was wonderful. It was finally finding people that accepted me for who I was, saw me, and didn't care how heavy I was. And so I majored in pre-med and biology and graduated, and the plan was to take the MCAT, take a physics class, apply to medical school, and move on with my life because I was going to be a doctor. I journaled about it in 2nd grade. And it's one of those things where the goal seems to get farther and farther, and you seem that you're just going towards a brick wall, because every time I did any activity that would bring me closer to this goal, I couldn't help but stop myself because I thought, who's going to listen to me? Who would take health advice from a super morbidly obese doctor? This is completely ridiculous. What am I doing? And at the same time, my world was starting to shrink, as anytime I walked more than 2 blocks, I would be struck with searing back pain that would cause me to stop. I started blocking out the world and wearing baggy sweatshirts with iPod earbuds in my ears, blasting show tunes so I couldn't hear comments, and not taking off dark glasses so I couldn't see the looks of disgust that I would invariably get, but mainly I didn't want them to know how much it hurt to see that. And then weight loss surgery started to become more of an answer. I never hated myself when I was so heavy. I never really associated with myself with that body image. It was some expert level coping. Even as a kid in ballet, I would look at the other girls in the mirror and just kind of inhabit their bodies, because when pictures would come back and I would see the picture and then I would see myself, I'd go, this isn't me. Like, what's going on here? But I knew that the path I was on was only going to lead to more disease and eventual self-loathing. And while I had been able to protect myself from that so long, it was gonna turn into hating the world and hating myself. And so while weight loss surgery at one point seemed like such a drastic move, at this time it now seemed like it was going to be the way to save my life. And so then I made the appointment with the surgeon, and he sat me down and we talked, and for the first time I felt listened to. He said, you know, probably about 50 pounds, though that's your doing, but the rest we don't know. But the surgery can help. So sometimes it takes a leap of faith, even though you don't get the answers you want, in order to heal. And surgery went well. The first week I lost 10 pounds, the first month 30, 6th month 100, and 18 months 200 pounds. And it was as mind-trippy as you would imagine. I had kept my arms up high, and only until a friend said, hey Meg, what are you doing, that I realized, oh, that's where I am now. A skeleton started to emerge, and I thought, oh my goodness, I have one of those too. So I'm now a chiropractor, and I ended up practicing in the same office building that horrible cardiologist works. And she was down in our office suite one day, and I saw her, and it was like, oh my God, enemy number one. And I was torn. I didn't know whether to run and hide or to give her a piece of my mind. And I started to listen to what she was saying, and she was saying how she was going to have to close up our office and retire, and it didn't sound like it was something that she was actually wanting to do. And the thing about losing 200 pounds, nobody recognizes you. And so I went up to her, introduced myself as Dr. Zepfel, and silently thanked her for the example that she set. Because now when I see patients, I try to listen, and I believe them. I believe their stories. And one of the things I tend to recommend is even fat kids, put them in spandex. Thank you.